Episode 5 with my sister Joy. Joy has been such an inspiration to so many in this New York City Freedom Movement. I've seen her online, some lady speaking from Queens and talking about what was going wrong at a New York Freedom Rally, August 2021. And it inspired myself and my wife so much to actually come out because she was calling out the men of New York City. Where are the men? I have spoke about this on other episodes. Today I bring you Joy of the Freedom Movement. Joy, thanks for coming today.
Thanks for having me.
We got to start off with where Crystal and I kind of got inspired. We were sitting in the house and we knew something was wrong with New York City. And we look on our Facebook, we're looking to see if there's any like-minded people. And we find a woman from Queens, New York City, speaking out at a Freedom Rally. And that was you. And just how powerful you are as a speaker. What got you started speaking at the New York Freedom Rally?
Man, well, first off, thanks for having me here. You know, this is, like I said before, I'm a little nervous, but, and I always am, but what got me speaking was seeing that there were so many other people out there feeling the same way I felt. And when you're in New York and it's mostly everyone just kind of like minding their business and they don't talk to each other, they don't say anything about anything to each other, and you see these large crowds of people that are saying the same thing you've been saying for a year and a half, you got to make the effort to come out there. So I got hooked up with New York Freedom Rally in January of 2021. And we started with protesting outside of politicians' offices that were trying to push legislation to start pretty much the enslavement camps, or the camps, what we're going to call it, the camps. And from there, it just ended up just being a good connection. And they let me know, listen, we're going to have a rally at City Hall. And I'm like, I'm there. And I got there, and it was my first time ever speaking in front of a crowd like that. And I've spoken at different places. You know, I used to go to the Long Island rallies and stuff, and I used to do the whole, you know, red team push. And I had a time or two to say a couple words, but this was a moment to talk, no politics, no anything. It's just about, you know, pretty much God and freedom and where I stand in this situation. And so I got up there, and what makes it interesting is that day marked just about 14 years later that God had asked me to go out there and speak and be the voice of people who can't speak for themselves. And that was always a calling for me. And so I got up on that stage, spoke, I think, for maybe about 9, almost 10 minutes. And I've never gotten a reaction like that from people before if it wasn't politics. I've never gotten a reaction where, you know, I was saying things that were on people's hearts and minds that they're glad that someone said the same thing, because we were all feeling the same thing, but some people just don't feel the courage to speak. And that's okay. You know, there are people that God assigns to come out and speak. And so there I was, and I did it, and it was a empowering situation. It was an empowering moment, but it was also humbling because it let me know God is going to make ways for me to start speaking what needs to be said for people to understand the truth.
And it really shows. It really shows when you actually could put the spirit in other people to get involved. And Crystal and I are just one of many I've watched. You know, we've been working together for over 2+ years, and I see so many people come up to you and say, wow, you're so powerful, you move me, you make me want to get involved more. And I witnessed that myself for you. So you can really see how God has an effect on what you're doing, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful, the work you're doing. The New York Freedom Rally, so how did you get connected with the New York Freedom Rally? How did you even find out about the New York Freedom Rally?
So I first met Jo at a Trump rally. I had seen her in Long Island, and we got connected through there. I found her on social media, and then it just kind of like, you know, snowballed from there, took off from there, and it went from messages of, you know, can you come out to here? Can you come out to here? You know, we want to get as many people involved as possible. I'm like, sure. Because I saw Jo online. I saw the fight that she decided to take up, even though it was just her herself, on the bus, being threatened to be kicked off because she wasn't wearing a mask. And I'm like, she could do it. I know I can do it. And it set a spark off in me, which pushed me. I got to find them. This is happening in New York City, because I only thought stuff was happening in Long Island. I only thought stuff was happening in Jersey. I was seeing the Ian Smiths.
You counted out New York City already too, right?
Because I'm like, New York City, we know, and listen, we've been living in Queens. We from New York.
That's right.
And New York has that mentality of, well, if it ain't affecting me, I ain't gonna worry about it. And so me thinking, okay, that's only how the city is gonna be. And I was in a political mindset. I have to go where like-minded people were. And that's where the whole political and being involved with Trumps and the rallying and the caravan, and I did all of it. I did it all. And that's how I found Joe. And that's how I started getting involved. And then it just went from there. That Worldwide Freedom Day, all these different other rallies that had nothing to do with politics. It was about, how do we save the world? How do we save what we have left that's human, the humanity, the love, the common likeness of just knowing everyone has, a purpose, and everyone has the right to live how they feel. That's what pushed me to even come furthermore. And I started seeing what New York Freedom Rally was doing. I'm like, this is what I want to do, because I can't wait for somebody to come and save me. Powerful. I can't keep pushing that, let alone I ain't doing it for myself. I'm not going to stand. I'm going to let someone else take the helm to decide to protect what means something to me. I have to get out there, and that's what got me out into the New York Freedom Rallies and being involved with the, rallies that they have. Interestingly enough, the first rally I ever went to in the city was a Save Our Children rally. I saw it online when I was doing a lot of the research about the trafficking and all the stuff that was going on. And I'm like, I'm going into Manhattan. I'm going to do this. And that was a taste of my first New York City rally. But a majority of the rallies I went to was Long Island, was Trump, was this, was that. And then it segued into finding out, knowing about what was happening in Staten Island with Danny Presti, knowing about what was happening with the Ian Smiths, knowing about, all those different things that was happening outside of my circumference, to end up finding out I could be right in my city, in New York City, and just start speaking. And
100%.
It went from there.
And the new shout out to New York Freedom Rally. I'm having Kevin on next week. Kevin's actually coming to the city, and I tell him all the time. I'm like, his rally was a hub for all these people that are getting involved. And it's really beautiful how we all came together. On your journey of being Republican minded and getting with them to now getting involved with the New York DeJure, what got you there? Where to go from you getting behind a political figure to actually taking self-accountability?
Man, so it started when I realized no one was coming. It started in 2020 when I got fired. There was a whole lot of layers to that and a whole lot of facets that came with that no one was coming. So as much as I was pushing behind, and as much as I was giving energy to making sure this is who I want in office, this is who I want representing me, those very same people that I wanted, they weren't coming to New York City. They weren't coming to Queens, New York. They weren't coming to where I resided, where we needed someone to represent us that was going to represent the rights of the people, or what was best, what we chose, our individual rights. So once I was pretty much burned by that, knowing that all these people that I was behind, all this red wave and all this stuff, they wasn't red waving in New York City. We were left behind. And so I'm like, I have to change my mind on how I'm going to get the goals that I want achieved, or see the change that I want to see. It's not going to come from passing the torch on to somebody else. I have to pick that torch up. I got to keep that fire going, because no one else is going to do it like me. No one's going to care about the things that I care about. No one's going to care about my family, my community, my neighborhood, my county, and my city the way I'm going to, because I'm from here. I'm born and raised here. I'm born and bred here. Whereas generations of us, plus generations to come after me. So when it came to politics, they wasn't coming to save us. They wasn't marching with us. They wasn't on the Brooklyn Bridge with us. 100%. They wasn't in the streets with us. They wasn't protesting. They wasn't sitting in. They wasn't getting arrested. They wasn't doing none of that with us. If anything, they was against what we were doing. They were more saying, come and back your next politician so you get your guy in, or your gal in, or whoever you want in. Meanwhile, we're still out in these streets like we need to see something happen now. And so I went from being this lifelong Republican, we talking about from the age of 18, defending Republicans from the time I was 14 in high school, to now I don't want to know nothing about blue, red, purple, green, yellow. I don't want to know. Because if they're not coming to sit with me at my table and find out what's going on in the community as someone who's a voice of the community, or even people in my community that are voices and hearing what the issue is, then I don't want to know nothing about it. If you're not ready to give up your check and do the job for free, like how we out here standing up for people, we not getting paid for this.
Right.
We doing this for free. If they don't have that same energy, then you could keep that over there. Because I'm about people keeping the same energy as me.
And that's the thing, guys. This woman, we have a friendship. She's best friends with my wife. I'm best friends with her husband. Or boyfriend.
It's okay.
Husband, boyfriend.
Sounds
I apologize.
good.
Dan.
I like how it sounds.
There's so much selfless work that's happening on behalf of these New Yorkers, specifically Joy. She's in every aspect, like Ray, like myself, like Dan, Crystal. They're in every aspect of this for free 99. They're doing this selflessly to find a solution, not to complain about a problem or get behind the politician, like Joy's saying, but actually boots on the ground trying to figure out solution. The DeJure, what have you learned in the DeJure that gets you away from the politician and more to the self-accountability?
Independence, having knowledge and knowing, like, it's like the phrase they used to say, knowledge is key, or, knowledge is freedom, or your education, what you get and what you educate yourself with is freedom. Knowledge is free, right? The way DeJure has affected my life and even just how I think, it put me on the path of, I am not waiting for anyone. The education is there. I have to want it, and I have to be able to do it for myself. So not only is that education free, because it's available to us, everybody's got a computer in their hand. Everyone has access to libraries and books and all. Just open it and read. And that's what was given to me, the opportunity to make independent choices and independent thought and free thought for myself. I don't have to wait for someone to say what I'm thinking. I'm going to say it for myself. And not only am I going to say it for myself, I'm going to have the information and the evidence to back my claim. I'm not just going to say something and then don't have whatever knowledge behind it to back it up. And I got that empowerment, not only through God working through me, but God allowing for me to get involved in these different areas and avenues to say, you know what, Joy, that's the knowledge you need right now. Go over there and absorb that, because I need you to know this, because there's other work you have to do and you're going to push this forward. So independence, 100%, not having to rely on waiting for a representative to say, oh, I'm going to fix the roads in your neighborhood. Well, then we're going to come in and we're going to change your mind, because I know the information and the knowledge of what you should be doing. You're not doing your job. So now I'm going to come investigate what you're doing and get you back on track to do what needs to be done. Because if you are said representation for me, especially if I'm paying for it, you're going to do what I asked you to. I'm going to demand it.
So holding them accountable, like
Exactly.
legit, just not saying the words.
Not just saying it. The work has to get done.
And that's the one thing I'm almost positive that you probably learned out of going from being a Republican to individual rights and standing on your own square, is that you see the Republican Party using the right words. They just don't know what the words mean.
Right.
They say hold them accountable, or they say constitutional rights, or they say we the people. But you actually know the context of those words. Now. You know what they actually mean and their great purpose.
Because we live it.
So that's the stepping stone, guys. We have to put the word Republic back in Republican. That's when it all comes down to it. Understand why these words matter. We the people is us. We have to understand that there's no government in between you and your creator, right?
Right.
There's no relinquishing your power to the government in this time. And that's what she's learning. That's what I'm learning, my wife and her husband, that we're learning in this time, is that we have to bring the power back to ourselves and really push as individual for our individual rights. That's how this constitutional republic was founded.
Absolutely.
So, Joy, as you're seeing under a lot of things that we post, specifically dealing with New York, we're seeing people from out of New York saying, hey, Democrats, this is what you voted for. When you see that with the knowledge that you're learning with the DeJure and stuff like that, what do you say when you see stuff like that online?
Well, the first thing I take it as an insult. Like, you disrespecting my city, you're disrespecting, the men and women that live there that don't appreciate this, that are being fed the illusion that if you vote or participate, you're going to get what you need and I'm going to represent you, because we're given a lot of false promises from both sides. But particularly in the arena of democracy, Democrats, and this is all just a play towards this, Democrats will tell certain communities like mine, oh, if you vote for me, we're going to make sure we do this, and I represent you, and I'm the party of this, and this, that, and the third. And then we're hit with the insult and the disrespect that when things do go wrong or they don't uphold the promises from their platform when they were campaigning, that this is what we deserve. It's almost like telling someone, who's been abused, but stuck it out for so long, and then now they want to come out of it and they don't appreciate what's happening. They know, well, that's what you get because you deserve that. That's an insult. That's a disrespect. That's, pretty much you're saying, well, suck it up and deal with it because that's what you deserve. Maybe vote better next time, or maybe choose better next time, when really there are a lot of people in my community that don't even vote.
Right.
Yet this is what is going to get pushed on them, or this is what you deserve. So now you have these conservatives, you have these Republicans, and I'm going to put it out there, these loyalty politics, these new age loyalists that are sitting up here saying like, oh, well, if you join us, things will be better for you. Well, how you going to get that point across if you ain't coming and hollering at us?
That sounds like mob rule to me. That sounds like
democracy.
Yeah, and what's crazy? It specifically comes from Republicans, and let us remind you that we are a constitutional republic. So when you speak like that and you say things like that, you're actually feeding the democracy and that whole mob rule agenda. That
Right.
we are a constitutional republic, right?
Right, constitutional republic with all rights and all independence and all freedoms respected for every individual, for every one man and woman. So if 90% of the people say we need government monitoring, but 10% of those people are like, you know what, no, that infringes upon our rights. Just because 90% of you said it, if 10% are harmed by that, you cannot do that. So anyone that thinks, oh, more government is going to fix the problem, or, if you just change the way you vote and vote a majority this way, or democracy this way, or mob rule this way, your life will be better. It's not going to be better, because we're still giving more power to the government. We're still saying we can't handle our affairs. We need someone else to step in and represent us because we don't know how to handle our business. And so you end up with these insults from places around the country that are saying, oh, well, if you just moved out and came to a red state, you'd be better. If you came down here to Florida, you'd be better because our state is red and free. We're a free state. You're up there. You need to just change how you're voting. Or you have people just even around our state itself, New York State itself, that are outside of the 5 boroughs because they consider us to be an issue or a problem. Oh, if we need to secede, we need to leave the state. We need to chop the state up because their problem should be with them and it shouldn't affect all of us. But it's like, how you going to insult us like that when you have men and women in New York City that are fighting for the entire state, if not the entire country?
Right.
How you separate us off like that based on what we chose to be loyal to? We're choosing to be loyal to God. We're choosing to be loyal to our rights. We're choosing to be loyal to our unalienable rights. You want to separate us because we're not choosing to be political loyalists? That's a problem.
People, you say God-given unalienable rights, and so many Republicans say things like constitutional rights. Can you just touch on God-given unalienable rights and constitutional rights? Can you explain that to the viewers, please?
Right. So based on a lot of the education that I've absorbed and I've learned to understand, when it comes to constitutional rights, those rights or what's been laid out and planned out in the Constitution are for those representatives that we put in place, that only get put in place based on your committees of safety, which I did some education, I did some research and digging on that. Someone gets appointed to be the representation for that area. So that Constitution pretty much gives them a guideline of what they won't do. They won't bother you if you decide to speak up against them. They won't bother you if you decide you want to defend yourself and protect yourself. They won't bother you because it's listed out in their job description, the Constitution. Whereas your unalienable rights, your God-given rights, or what is bestowed upon you when you are born and you take that first breath, has nothing to do with what the government gives and doesn't give you. That's the right to live. That's the right to breathe. That's the right to raise your family how you want. That's the right to eat whatever you want, how you want to educate your children, how you want to defend yourself, as long as you do no harm to anyone. That's not laid out in the Constitution. Every single right that you have that God allows you to do every day is not laid out in the Constitution. So, yeah, we could play around with the term constitutional rights. It sounds good. And that could be a gateway or a segue into learning other things.
Pushing people back.
Because we all had to learn this. I was running around shouting that for a while, saying my constitutional rights. I have the right, the Constitution. Yeah, it protects me and stuff. But once I learned there are things that I can do that God says I have that ability and free will to do. It's not laid out in that document. That document is laid out so government can be pushed back when they decide to infiltrate or infringe on our rights. So I'm not going to run around and say I have constitutional rights. No, because that doesn't apply to me anymore. Now that I know, when you know more, you do better. And a lot of us have to start knowing more so that we can do better. So for those out there, and I'm speaking to my red, brothers and sisters, because I was a true Republican too, the idea that this is what we voted for, I think is a slap in the face. And I'll say it. I don't have you want to come and address me? You can address me and we can have that conversation. I'm ready for that conversation. I got the time. I'm on that time. I have that time. Please don't insult us. And this will just be, a disclaimer. Don't insult us because we're out here putting in the work. I appreciate everyone that has supported us, that don't think that way. Don't think that just because New York City is blue or always turns blue, that's the case, and that we deserve the treatment that we're getting. We deserve to be arrested when we stand up for ourselves. We deserve to be fired because that's how you all voted democratically, because of Democrats, because it's blue. No, it's because everyone is engaging in democracy. Everyone is engaging in the voting system. Everyone is engaging in this issue of, well, if you just vote this one in, it'd be better for you. You wouldn't have lost your rights. Where were the Republicans in 2021?
Right.
Where were they on the bridge? Where were they when people was petitioning to get exemptions and things like that? No one in government was saying, well, if they can't work, I won't work. So bottom line is, we don't deserve this. We are God-created, divine, spiritual, unique, wonderfully and marvelously created, and we do not deserve the treatment that we have been treated just because you think we voted for this. Because I know I ain't vote for none of this. I'm never voting again, and I'll put that on the record for everybody to know. Don't come to me and ask me who I'm voting for. It's never going to happen. If there's no republic, I'm not engaging in democracy. So I understand that. But just know, we don't deserve this. So the comments of, oh, it's because you're Democrats or it's a blue city, that's what you get.
The mob rule, 100%.
Well, I'm not with the other side of the mob either. And like I said, sound like a bunch of colonial loyalists. It sounds like, and we are 1776 2.0. Y'all sounding like a whole bunch of loyalists. Loyalty to party politics.
I'm glad I have you here, Joy, because on other episodes, I explained that this New York City Freedom Movement was being led by women, and you're one of those women. Could you give a few words to the men on camera today to really just talk to them and why it's so important for men to stand up in this time?
Well, first off, I'll lay it out like this. As a woman, if a woman is saying, men, where are you? It means that women are stepping into their role, understanding that if there are men around and there is danger and a woman is in danger or there is a threat, that the man is going to come. And women know, let me get that man to come and handle this. So the women in the movement that have addressed that issue, where are the men, or where is the presence of men or we need a larger presence of men, because we have men here, like yourself, like Dan and Ray and several others. We have a presence of men, but the question still is, where are the men? They need to step into what their role is. So the women know we are an empowerment. We are a force to be reckoned with, especially when we know the children are involved and our families are being threatened, because we are protectors. We are. We have the innate ability to protect when it comes to children, when it comes to family. But men also have the innate, genetic, God-driven ability to protect as well when they see their women being threatened. And women have been threatened for a very long time, whether it's the standards, whether it's their roles, whether it is in what society is doing now. And I won't even dive deep into that, because the basics is men understand that God has a role for you, and you have to step into that role, because once you step away from that role, whatever is deemed applicable for your position will be put in place, and you will never get your position back. Do not cry and moan when you can't get it back. Do not be upset or disgruntled, disdain, whatever it is. Don't be upset when you can't get that title back, because man is a very strong title. It is your identity. It's who you are. It is why it's come under attack. And it is why women, when they go out and they go to fight the battle, because women are warriors, we go out to fight the battle. Where are you, men? Because we can only do but so much. We need you to stand up. So this whole thing with, oh, we alphas, yeah, alpha this, I'm an alpha, I'm at, where you at though? Where you at though?
Talk to them.
Because I'm ready to see some men. I want to see the men step up and form the line and truly hold the line, because the women have been holding the line. You've seen a lot of the teachers that got fired, a lot of women. See a lot of the nurses that got fired, a lot of women. Men, where you at? And I know men were involved in that same little group, so I don't want anyone to take offense and put this shoe on and start acting all soft on me. Don't get soft on me. What I'm addressing and what I'm saying is pretty much, women have called you out for a reason, because there is something in you that is God-driven, divine, that you have to unleash for a moment like this. And I can say this because I still have my father, I have 3 brothers, and I have a son that I've raised to be amazing. I have a great set of men in my life that know whenever the women have issues, they are stepping up and they are stepping in and they are showing out. That is what you're supposed to do. So if you hear the rally call, if you hear the rally cry, from whether it's from rallies, protests, sit-ins, or get involved and let's start holding them accountable, men step in, because you have a duty.
100%.
It's not a choice anymore. It's not a maybe I'll do it on a Sunday and I'll take a break on the Tuesday and I'll go hang out on a Friday, but I'll be back next Saturday. It's an everyday 24/7. You don't get to sleep on this job, because the enemy don't sleep, so you don't need to sleep.
And I think the main thing is that there's the future of our children. You know,
Yeah.
If they're banking, I said this before, but they're banking on men to go, I just got to worry about me and mine. And that's how
Right.
they were able to encroach on us. Everybody just worrying about themselves. And look,
Right.
by everybody running to their house and not getting involved, that's how the government was able to encroach. You being an advocate for all the city workers and the great work that you, the Freedom Rally, Joe, all did and led that Brooklyn Bridge protest. How did you feel after that? After they left that protest, that they actually went and got the shot, or didn't really stand up? There was the unity there, the numbers were there, the network was there, and that's what you were kind of telling them, like, we have to network, we have to stand. What was your take on them just kind of folding?
It was rough. I know that there are a lot of men and women out here that they felt they had no choice. And that's what's so important with DeJure. If you felt you were coerced, do something about it. If you felt that someone forced you to do something, hold them accountable. But the idea of coercion with no action behind it to hold someone accountable for it is kind of like a cop-out. It really is. And I do feel bad for people who felt that that was the only route that they had to take. I feel bad for those people that just felt like they had no choice because they needed to do what they had to do. And I know some of these people that still keep in touch with me and they support what we do and they'll never do it again. I'm cool. Like, at first I was disheartened, disappointed to know that historic moment, or close to as historic as possible in this situation that we were in, all these people there, how they tried to downplay it. First, they tried to downplay it, wasn't as much as was there. I believe there was about 70,000, 80,000 people there. That's a lot of people to be in one spot. If we kept that same momentum, imagine every day for a week, just 1 week. That's all we would have needed.
Unity.
Even in the beginning
100%.
of it, we talking. So I'll step back and talk about September 9th was when I got fired. I got fired pretty much before a lot of people did. I was one of the first round. I know a few other people that also got fired on September 9th for the choices that I made. 1, I wasn't taking no shot. 2, I let all my credentials expire because I wasn't taking no shot. So it went hand in hand. If everyone made the decision the week prior to September starting, we not going in. The MTA, if MTA would have coordinated with FDNY, coordinated with NYPD and all these agencies and city workers and civil workers, whatever they want to call them, and said 1 week, we not going to do nothing, this will all been over.
100%. And they were smart with the MTA. What they did is they were allowed to take spit tests, and they knew they had to be easy with the MTA because they're the actual people that transport millions of people.
Right.
So
Keeps the
they
city
knew,
moving.
and the rules for the teachers were different than the MTA. With a virus out that anybody, like, technically is a health risk, right? But it wasn't for the MTA, and that's where you see the government overreach when you see things like that. They knew they can roll over the teachers. They knew. But the cops, they waited. They tried to smoke them out by making them get religious exemptions and stuff like that. Moving forward, we're looking at New York possibly in the next week or two, hearing about COVID restrictions and stuff like that. What is the advice that you can give city workers this time around with standing up against tyranny?
The advice that I have is, if you really about that life, if you're saying don't tread on me, I'm about my freedom, this will never happen again, I won't ever take another nothing, then show it. Show it. Show what you're going to do, because it's one thing to say it. It's another thing to actually have actions. And everything that even I apply with my life is all, I'm telling you, people say I'm crazy, it all stems back from DeJure, because I needed just that one thing that I heard. If you're going to make a claim, have evidence. So if the claim is, never again, I won't comply, have your evidence ready, because there's a lot of evidence that suggests that it's different. There's a lot of evidence that's saying you're going to comply. So show me the evidence. Show me that you're not going to comply. So if something comes up and they say you can't go in the store, I better see 20, 30 of y'all making a group and walking up in that store. I don't care if you buying a Q-tip. Go in that store with either no mask or not showing no papers. Roll up into that restaurant. And the whole thing of boycotting places, that's light work. I don't want to hear nothing about, let's boycott so and such and such and such. No, they shouldn't be violating your rights, period. So you need to have 100 people showing up. The boycotting business, that's garbage to me. All of that is just BS. Now, of course, you're going to give 100% support to people that don't even want anything to do with that at all, like the Roccos, like the Pubellas, like the places that were, the freedom areas that we could go to and feel normal, feel like we belong, that our rights are being respected. But the whole boycotting, like what happened with us, with y'all with Cheesecake, or what happened with me in the museum, boycotting those places is not going to keep them places from running. It should have been, once you saw 6 people get arrested, it should have been 600 of y'all rolling up saying, seat me, seat me, seat me. We're not boycotting these places. They're not going down. What they're going to do is just respect their rights. So the advice is, if you're saying that you're not going to comply, then I need to see some evidence for that claim. I want to see the evidence. Let the restrictions come. Let the mandates come. If they apply to you, then do something about it. But if you really want to see what applies, Go and find out what you can learn from DeJure, because really a lot of these mandates and these policies and regulations, they don't apply to us. You just need to know the education.
And for my last question, there's a lot going on in Staten Island. You've been playing an active role coming out from Queens to Staten Island. I have a lot of respect for the people that have been standing in the medical freedom movement in Staten Island, the John Matlins, the Dan Presties, the Rachels. If I forget anybody, forgive me. Arthur, Cop for Freedom. I mean, he's a stud. I can't wait to get him on, man. With being there, they're trying to paint these people as racist. What's your take on the media trying to paint them as a racist?
Well, so now we talking about an entity that likes to say the sky is red and it's blue, or say that, this is this and zebras have spots and leopards have stripes. Like, we're talking about an entity that will take anything and corrupt it and pervert it. So now I have been to Staten Island. I've been going back and forth to Staten Island for almost 2 years now. If there was an issue of any kind of racism or any form of discrimination, would I not see it? I would be the first one that would say, yo,
100%.
This is what's going on. But I've been out there.
And I'd be right there with you, my sister.
Right.
I'd be right there with you if we seen that.
Anything crazy like that. So for the people who I have encountered, whether it's at the Castleton pub or they're right there by where they're having the migrant rallies and the protests and standing up for what they feel they want, what's best for their neighborhood, nothing of it is coming across, for me, in my personal opinion, as racist. What the media will show is that, okay, they're saying they don't want them. Now, that can be twisted and taken and construed it as, particularly for who's coming in. But then there needs to be context and understanding. Actually go and talk to those people and find out, is this what you mean? Rather than taking it and flying off with it. But for me, it's disturbing to hear that every little thing is racist. And
right.
I mean, down to even myself being called racist, and I want to know where that's at. So
you're a white supremacist.
The biggest one of them all.
It's literally a weapon. Joy, thank you so much for coming. You've
Absolutely.
been, like I said, you've been an inspiration to us, and it's been an honor to stand next to you, fight next to you. That's my hand. Grab my hand. I love you, my sister.
Love you too, bro.
Before we leave, can I get a real quick New York City year from the people in the building? Yeah. And we're out. Love y'all. Mighty Fuzz.